It was a cool Sunday evening when I got the text from Mom. Family dinner, just us, no drama, bring your appetite red. The heart emoji felt like a peace offering. We hadn't talked much lately, not since I started juggling 2 jobs and trying to figure out how to afford next semester without touching what was supposed to be my college fund. I showed up anyway, because despite everything, I still hoped that maybe for once, they'd recognize how hard I was trying. The table was set like a magazine ad, candlelight, perfect silverware alignment. The smell of roast chicken and rosemary bread filled the room, almost enough to make me forget how tired I was. "Look at you," Mom said, pulling me in for a tight hug. "Skin and bones, you need to eat more." Dad gave a firm pat on the back, grinning. "Our little scholar, we're so proud of you." My sister Melanie lounged at the end of the table, one hand scrolling through her phone, the other holding a wine glass. "Took you long enough," she said with a smirk. "We're starving." We sat, laughed, made small talk. They asked about my classes. I lied and said things were going great. We toasted to family, the kind of surface-level bonding that always felt like walking on glass. And then Melanie said it. "So weird to be debt-free now." She mumbled between bites, her eyes still glued to her phone. "Still can't believe you guys used the college fund for that. Total lifesaver." The table went still. I looked up, fork halfway to my mouth. Did I hear that right? "What?" I asked carefully. Melanie blinked. "What? You said. The college fund, my college fund." Mom's face paled just for a second. "Sweetheart, it's not what you think." My heart began pounding. "What do I think, Mom? That you emptied the one thing I had going for me so she could clear her credit cards." "It wasn't just credit cards," Melanie snapped. "It was complicated. Complicated." I turned to my dad. "Tell me you didn't let this happen." Dad sighed. "We made a choice, okay." Melanie was in serious trouble. You thought she was more important than me." My voice cracked. "That I didn't deserve the future I worked for." Mom tried to soothe. "You're smart. You'll figure it out. We've always believed in you." "No," I said, rising from my chair. "You believed in making sure Melanie never faced a consequence in her life. You believed in lies," Melanie scoffed. "Don't be dramatic. It's not like you didn't still apply for loans. You stole from me," I said quietly. "Believe by fur had PATOMEATHING. I didn't." No one spoke. I didn't wait for dessert. I walked out the door and didn't look back. The silence after the storm was worse than the shouting. I walked home that night with numb fingers and a racing mind, my breath fogging up in the cold night air. The city was alive around me, cars honking, laughter from street corners, music pouring from open windows, but inside me, everything had gone still. I kept replaying it, over and over again, the way Melanie had said it like it was nothing, the way my parents looked guilty, but not sorry, the way no one even tried to tell me before I found out by accident. That was the part that burned the most. They didn't just steal my future. They buried it and hoped I wouldn't notice. That night, I sat on the floor of my apartment, staring at the folder that had once held every plan I'd ever made, admissions letters, tuition estimates, the breakdown of that college fund. Dad swore they'd been growing since I was a kid. It was supposed to be my safety net, my freedom, all gone, just like that. I didn't cry, not yet, not even when I found the spreadsheet I made last year titled Dream Budget Fall Semester, complete with color-coded tabs for rent, books, and savings. I had mapped everything out so carefully, worked those long shifts at the coffee shop, skipped trips, sold old clothes, turned down nights out with friends. Every little sacrifice, thinking it would all be worth it because I had that fund waiting for me, except now I didn't. I texted Melanie. "Me, you knew I didn't know. Why didn't you say anything?" She didn't respond. 2 hours later, she finally sent back, "Melanie, I didn't ask them to do it. Maybe if you were around more, you'd know what was going on. That was it." No sorry, no guilt, just the same deflection I'd grown up watching her master. Melanie never had to be responsible for anything. Every mistake swept under the rug by my parents. Every failure softened with excuses. While I learned how to be responsible, how to carry more than I should have ever had to, I didn't reply. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I finally understood. There was no fixing this, and the weirdest thing, that realization didn't destroy me. It cleared something in me, like smoke, finally lifting after a fire, and beneath the ashes clarity. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about being invisible in my own family. It was about being the backup plan while Melanie lived recklessly, knowing someone else would pay her tab. Literally. It was about being punished for being strong, for being the one they could afford to betray because I always figured it out. Well, I'd figure it out again. But not for them, not with them, and not quietly. I started digging. Old emails, financial records, every document I'd saved related to the fund. Dad used to send quarterly updates with screenshots from the investment account. I still had some of them. I opened them one by one, tracking every deposit, every cent. The last update, over a year ago, my stomach turned. I wasn't just hurt, I was angry, and underneath that anger, something colder was starting to form. I didn't want revenge just to make them suffer. I wanted justice, for the years I'd spent being their afterthought. I wanted my future back, even if I had to carve it out of the rubble they left behind. So I made a plan. No screaming, no begging, no more trying to earn love from people who only gave it conditionally. They took what was mine. Now, I'd take it back. I filed the paperwork on a Thursday morning, the sky over campus a clear, indifferent blue. Sitting in a cramped legal clinic with fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, I watched the intake clerk type my story with the professional detachment of someone used to other people's disasters. I spoke slowly, choosing words like a person defusing a bomb. This fund was set up for me, I said. My parents diverted it to pay my sister's debts without my consent. The lawyer's eyebrows creased. We can look into fiduciary misuse. If the donor's intent was for you, and the money was used for something else, you may have a claim. The world felt steadier after that. Not fixed, but with a path. I collected records, old statements, the quarterly emails Dad had once sent like proof of good parenting. I scanned receipts, traced transfers, and slowly connected dots that Mom and Dad had tried to blur with small, sheepish explanations and too slick apologies. There were tax forms with odd amendments, a transfer to Melanie's account that lined up exactly with when Mom had said the emergency happened. I served them notice. At first the blowback was theatrical, calls at odd hours, Dad's voice shaking between threats and pleading. Mom's tears, real or rehearsed, that tried to tug at something mercilessly familiar in my chest. Melanie posted coy photos of herself at brunch, captioned about fresh starts. As if glossy filters could gloss over theft, I didn't send a single angry message. I let the legal letters do the yelling for me. Each envelope that arrived at their house was a small, ceremonial unmaking of the narrative they'd built around themselves. Sacrifice. Family first. We did what we had to do. Meanwhile, I rebuilt. I applied for emergency scholarships, for hardship grants designed for students who'd lost financial support, for private awards with strange, hopeful names. I took on a late-night job tutoring while teaching morning sections in an underfunded lab. I learned to sleep in 3-hour chunks and to write a winning personal statement at 2 a.m. Slowly, the money came together, less glamorous than a fund started for me at birth, but purer because it was mine by merit and hustle. The court case didn't explode with melodrama. There was no public trial with sobbing confessions. Instead, there were quiet hearings where a judge peered at forms and transcripts and eventually issued an order. Melanie was to repay the amount transferred. My parents were held financially accountable for their misuse. There were penalties, formal reprimands that didn't erase the past, but put a legal stamp on the truth. When the formalities closed, I felt strange. Not triumphant, there was little joy in forcing your family to pay for their mistakes, but relieved. The last time I saw them, their faces carried a weight I'd never seen before. Practical consequence, the gravity of having their actions catalogued and judged. Melanie reached out months later with a short, clumsy email that said, "I'm sorry. I know you suffered." It was tiny, paper, thin. I read it twice, folded a corner, and then deleted it. My revenge wasn't about making them smaller. It was about making space for me to grow. I graduated with a scholarship I'd earned, debt lighter than it could have been, and a quiet confidence that I could build my life without the tacit approval of those who once called themselves my anchors. Sometimes at night I still taste that bitterness, a remnant of betrayal. But now it's tempered with something else, a steady warmth from late night shifts, from the sound of my own name called with pride by people who know nothing about family politics. That warmth is sweeter than any vindication. I didn't break them. I didn't gloat. I rebuilt. And in the rebuilding came a new kind of freedom, to choose who I loved, who I trusted, and how loudly I let their voices matter in my life.